All right, folks, we are live. Let's hope that we have no technical problems tonight, okay? Let's just hope. You know, we've done all we can. We asked the internet company. I bought an Ethernet cable. So frankly, at this point, it is in God's hands. It truly is, okay? So please, Father, don't screw us over tonight, okay? Don't let us be screwed over tonight, I should say, okay? But yeah, in all seriousness, tonight on the Vince Dow Show, we got to wrap up the Tucker Carlson Andrew Tate interview that we tried to watch last night. Also, Piers Morgan today did a brand new interview with RFK Jr. What are my general thoughts on RFK? Do I think he's useful? Do I think he should be Trump's vice president? I'll give you all those thoughts tonight on the Vince Dow Show. Great show. Stay tuned. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome, everyone, to the Vince Dow Show. I am your host, Vince Dow. And before we begin, everyone, be sure to leave a like on the stream right now. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as usual, if you do want to support the stream tonight, feel free to do so via the Super Chats. I will check these Super Chats regularly throughout the night. And I want to get right into the show tonight because we got a lot of content to react to. We got to follow up on last night's... we were going to try to finish it last night. I don't think we're going to finish it today, honestly. I think there's just a few parts of the Andrew Tate Tucker Carlson interview that I actually did have things to say about. So we're going to just react to those maybe 20-30 minutes or so. And then I really want to get into this brand new news. Today, RFK and Piers Morgan sat down for an interview. I thought it was very interesting. We'll talk about that. And also, one more thing, one more last piece of housekeeping here before we begin. We now have an email list, ladies and gentlemen. We have an exclusive daily newsletter email list, and you can go sign up. In fact, everyone right now, if you got another browser open, whatever it is, go sign up for our free exclusive email list at thevincedao.tv.com. That is thevincedao.tv.com. Now, you may say, well, Vince, every streamer shills their email list. Why should I subscribe to yours? Well, for two main important reasons, besides staying updated and all of that, okay? Number one, as you may be familiar with on YouTube, we are constantly the victim of censorship. We can get striked. We can get our channel taken down at any moment. And, you know, there's different social platforms, whatever. But that email list is going to be the only foolproof way to keep in touch with us if we do get censored from big tech. So, again, that's number one, why you got to go check out VinceDaoTV.com. Sign up, put in your email there. And then reason number two is you benefit from it too. You get exclusive content. Our newsletter members will have access to a lot of exclusive videos. In fact, if you go sign up right now this week, you will have access to our video on my 4 ways to save America. Okay, so I have like a little manifesto video. It's about 15 minutes. Only available if you sign up for the newsletter. So go do that. VinceDaoTV.com. Again, that is VinceDaoTV.com. Sign up for our newsletter. All right, well, before we start tonight, I know we got one super chat here. Kendall Wilder, haven't seen you for a long time, man. Good to see you. For $10 says BlackRock and Vanguard control every company. That is, well, not every company yet, but yeah, they basically do control the American economy at this point, and they do have a stranglehold, so that is very true. That is 100% true. Thank you for the $10, Kendall Wilder. I appreciate it very much. By the way, guys, let's get the stream right now to 50 likes as we sit around and do this, but okay. All right, let's get into our stuff for tonight. So, last night, as you may know, we tried to react to this Tucker Carlson, Andrew Tate interview, and there was actually a lot of insightful things I wanted to go over and say, and we got brutally murdered by Cox Cable and Internet, and that was very unfortunate. So hopefully today this goes better. Again, I don't want to react to this full thing. We're not going to sit down and watch it for several hours, but there are a few things I do want to talk about here, and first and foremost, I found this very interesting. They actually have a discussion here about migration and the impacts that is having on Europe, and I thought it was a very good conversation. So let's play this really quickly here, okay?
Europe in general has problems. If you look at France as we speak, I think it's on fire, isn't it? Most of it?
It is.
Yeah. So they have issues, and their answer, what's a government's solution to anything? Law. What can a government do? No matter what.
But they're not laws that are aimed at fixing the problem that's right in front of them.
They're laws aimed at fixing the person who's talking about the problems.
So
why don't you get rid of the guy who tells everybody? Isn't that easier? Tucker? Why fix any of this? If we just shut him up, they won't know.
No, but that's like responding to a heat wave by breaking your thermometer.
Completely right. That's the plan.
It's insane.
Plan one is to break the thermometer. We might deal with the heat wave a bit later. But
Get air conditioning. No, let's break the thermometer.
For now, there's too many people talking about the heat wave. So let's just break that. And then later on, maybe when we have time, we'll do something about the actual issue.
So that's true. That's basically what they did to Donald Trump, right? All the demonization from day one. Never once did the people in power stop to ask, well, why is Donald Trump so popular? Why is this billionaire from New York become some type of populist revolutionary? They never cared to listen, and that's kind of true. But here it gets into the conversation about migration that, I thought is very important.
It seemed like a lot of this is an effort not to talk about the real thing in Europe anyway, which is migration.
Yeah.
And the UK, formerly known as England, and France have both been completely changed by people from other countries.
Yep.
And I'm sure have added good things too. I mean, I'm not, you know, but they've changed them. And in general, they're not better countries. And like, why can't anyone admit that?
But this is what's really interesting to me about what's happening, because we're talking about masculinity and men who say no and men who stand up. But there has to be balance, right? Yeah. Everywhere in the world, there has to be power balances. If there's not a balance in power, there's going to be a vacuum, and that's going to be filled. If you neuter the native population of men, if you destroy their mentality to resist, if you tell them that every single thing about them masculine is wrong, and you basically feminize and unicate them, turn them into eunuchs, and then you import high testosterone men from the third world who don't believe any of this garbage, who grew up in a society where they understand the only way to succeed is to be a fearsome predator to a degree, what do you think is going to happen? Like,
they're going to take over.
Who's supposed to protect?
I mean, ultimately, who's going to take over? Look at who's taking over Europe right now, you know, in a way, quote unquote, taking over. I know, you know, if you say it like that, whoa, Vince, that's a bit controversial, but, you know, we're just saying it in a legitimate sense, right? Look at what's going on in France, or what happened in France, I should say, about a week ago. All the migration that, first of all, largely was brought in as the result of this sort of feminine sense of weakness, because what is the argument for mass immigration in the US and in Europe and all of that stuff? It's compassion. Oh no, but you know, third world, they're so poor. And of course, no one has the gall to stick up and say, well, okay, but what about us? What about the people here? What about the impacts of that? What about here, the United States, right? We always say, oh, well, what about these poor people around the world? You know, we need to come in, Statue of Liberty, all that stuff, but no one ever has the conversation. What about the people in this country? How does that affect their wages, their neighborhoods, you know, their communities, the schools? No one cares, right? But also no one has the nerve to stick up for it because, oh no, we don't want to be controversial. We want to be compassionate and all of that stuff. But he brings up a very good point. I've never heard it said this way, but it is very true. That what's happening, you know, the reason why sometimes you see there's sort of this irony where, you know, you see a lot of migration from the Islamic world, and that does kind of in a way upend the political and cultural order of these European countries. But at the same time, they're sort of now standing up, the Muslim men and stuff, at least against certain things. But so there's sort of like this double entendre, oxymoronic aspect to it. And it is kind of true, right? Which is that what the emasculation of men does, all it does is it creates a power vacuum, right? In some way or another, quote unquote, masculine men are always going to rule a society, right? So if the masculine men of Europe, for instance, this one civilization, or America, if they stop being masculine, if they abandon their natural imperatives and, you know, we're in the state we are now, it doesn't mean that suddenly masculinity goes away. It just means someone else is going to take charge of it, right? So either in this sense, all of the immigrant groups from other parts of the world are going to take part in it, and next thing you know, it's basically their overarching group who have control of the culture and not, you know, what you may call the domestic population, right? Or in the old school sense, maybe not so much anymore, but what used to happen back then is you would just get conquered, right? What happens when the Romans get weak as men, right? What happens? They just get conquered. Maybe now it happens in a more so subtle way, but I think the same thing is still going on, and that's true. So I thought that was a very interesting conversation, but let's keep playing here.
Protect the sanctity of these nations and these settlements and these towns and villages. The police, no. In general, I would argue that it's the masculine essence that can be detected by the people who arrive. I guarantee if you were to put a bunch of these migrants in Sarajevo or Moscow, they behave themselves.
True.
Oh, yeah.
I have a feeling they just look around and go, not today. But when you neuter the native populace, then it's like, well, there's a power vacuum, and when there's a power vacuum, what do we expect to happen? So that's
what are the French gonna do about it? What's your average Englishman gonna do about it?
Nothing. And that's the thing, and that makes you wonder: is this purposeful? Like, why these two actions of neutering the native populace and importing these high testosterone third worlders are so at odds with each other?
Yeah.
Is this purposeful? I'm not sure, but has anyone considered this? So yeah, it's interesting because you talk about
these are huge.
I think it is purposeful, right? And I think because a lot of people very often will bring up, for instance, like in the United States, they say, well, there's an irony to it because all of the illegal immigrants here that are pouring over the border, if you ask them their views on, I don't know, gender ideology, they might give you a quote unquote right-wing answer. And I guess to a degree that is true, and maybe the left really is being incompetent and the whole thing's going to blow up in their face. But what I would argue it's really about is kind of cultural displacement of what already existed, right? So that's really what it's about, because the fundamental goal of the little like Marxist revolution that's happening here is they want to upend all of the traditional order, right? So the traditional men, the traditional morals, the traditional standards, the traditional religion, that's especially true in the case of Europe, but I would argue here too, the traditional religion of a country, right? And so when you import basically, this, right? When you import by millions and millions of people, a brand new culture, a brand new religion, a brand new people, what ends up happening is, even if that's not the archetype leftist thing that they want, like Muslims are not exactly, what Sharia law is not exactly progressive leftist culture, right? They're not exactly compatible. But the point of it is that it's kind of a proxy because it just displaces the old Western European Anglo-American sort of order and moral and norms and culture and all of that stuff. So I think that's what it's really about, right? That's why the left doesn't really care. Maybe they're just that stupid and it's going to backfire. But I think to an extent, they understand the people they're bringing over are quote unquote socially conservative and socially traditional. It's just different standards than what is Western, right? Because they're non-Western. And so this is by mass the population that's coming in and what's going on. So I think that's what it's about. But
intentional trends. And I mean, they're historically transformative trends. They're a big deal. So they're probably not happening by accident, right? There's got to be some intent. How could there not be?
That's right. And how do they expect all of this to end? And this is exactly what's happening with migration. The problem with migration specifically is that there's no native masculine populace to enforce any degree of culture or boundary or parameter. And like I said, I would argue the point.
I think that's a very good take.
And I've been to Sarajevo and I've been to Moscow. I've been to these places and I've seen there's a whole bunch of migration and everybody seems to just behave a little bit differently. And I think that's because people understand.
That men live here?
That men live here.
Yeah, it's true.
If you turn up in someone's house and their house is pristine, you're probably going to take your cup and you're going to go put it in the kitchen. But if you turn up in somebody's house and it's a fucking mess and nobody respects the house and nobody cares and the man is drugged out of his mind, half asleep on the couch, what are you going to do with your cup? You're going to leave it there. You don't give a shit.
Yeah, it's true.
If you turn up to the Western world and look at it.
Then you're going to hit on his wife.
Absolutely. So what do we expect to happen in these scenarios, right? And it is purposeful and it is scary that even me just telling men to go to the gym is seen as an act of defiance to the point where I have to be punished. I must go to jail. I must be silenced. The thermometer must be broken.
If at the end of all of this, no matter what happens, do you plan to stay in Romania?
I love Romania. I love this country. And if I am found not guilty, I will stay in Romania, yeah. I will still stay here. I don't believe in running away. I also believe, and perhaps this is...
Yeah, I didn't even want to ask you that because you've got a legal case pending, but I mean, presumably you're rich enough to run away when you haven't.
Correct. I'm not going anywhere. I think if I was anywhere in the Western world, this would have happened to me. I don't think this is Romania's fault. Let's put it that way. I don't think this is Romania's fault. I think if I resided in Switzerland or France or Italy, the same thing would have happened. From knowing what I know. I think it was going to happen to me regardless, and I think I do have a large amount of sympathy.
Probably true. Okay, so now, like I said, I don't want to go through the whole thing because, we tried to do it last night, okay? But there's one last segment here I wanted to react to, which is towards the end I thought was interesting, so let's go to that now, okay?
And this is what I'm saying about the world. There's so many places in the world where they still live very firmly in the real world. All of this garbage is just the result of the very simple, easy lives that we have. Inside the movie The Matrix, which I recommend you watch, the agents say, we tried to create a utopia for the human mind so that your mind is in a utopian state and your body can just be used. But the human mind rejects utopia. We created the world in 1999 at the pinnacle of human civilization before machines took over, because the human mind needs struggle and it needs problems, otherwise it rejects it.
Yes.
And I kind of feel like there's a whole bunch of people trying to just find problems and find struggle in their lives because they don't have enough motivation to do something that's genuinely difficult, like, help people. But they can't live in this state of complete vegetation.
That's
so
right.
then they wake up and say, oh, I'm oppressed, my pronouns. How much energy must it take to go through life trying to correct every person you interact with to call you Z? Think of the calories burnt. I can't think of a bigger waste of time. Think of the calories burnt. Every Starbucks employee, it's actually Z. Correct. You are a moron.
I think there's something to be said that prosperity is killing us in many ways, because it's true. The only way you can even forget the Zer, I mean, that's obviously ridiculous, but I would even go back to something like feminism. The only reason you're able to entertain an idea like that is because society exists in prosperity. Because think about it. Does feminism exist when life is hard? No, not at all. Because what happens in a basic state of nature when you're faced with that brutal reality, right? Strong men will step up and lead. Women will follow, weaker men will follow. That is how every human civilization always starts. I don't care what it is, where it is around the world, it's always the same thing, right? And that's how human civilizations are built. They're built by the strong men leading the weaker men and leading the women. That's just how it goes. But then when things are good and, the men have built us a civilization, then what do? Oh, feminism's easier. You have the time to waste on ridiculous nonsense, right? So I think that's part of the problem in our, they call it first world problems, but I think it's true. Part of what has killed America so much is we sort of shine too bright for our own good, we unleash so much potential and innovation and all this stuff that I think almost you could argue too fast with industrialization and digitalization and all that. We have this society now where people have the time to entertain such stupid, ridiculous nonsense. I think it's very true.
And you are just wasting so much energy. You could put that towards something beneficial. You could volunteer. You could go to the gym. There's so much more you could do with instead of walking around and talk about Z. You sound like a dumbass. But they're just finding struggle because they don't have any actual important struggle in their lives. And that's why it only exists in the decadent West.
Do you think the coming famine will change that?
Absolutely. I would argue that when the famine comes, I think all these feminists will look for a strong man of resource who is stoic, who has a good network, who's capable and important and respected. It's amazing how quickly feminism disappears. In fact, there's a podcast I did called Fresh and Fit. And I did this podcast in Miami, and I was arguing about gender roles with 7 girls. And during it, they were telling me that they can do anything a man can do, all the usual things, and they don't care, they don't need a man, all this garbage. And some crazy fan knocked on the door for me, and he had a gun. He knocked on the door. You should have seen the women, how quickly they became feminists when I had to go to that door.
Yep.
They all completely changed. Go. Oh, the feminism's out the window. There's no feminists on the Titanic. There's no feminisms in a famine. There's no feminists at war. Where's the feminists? Go to war, right? I remember when we did that very...
my concern, though, is that, let's see the writing on the wall. Society is going to break down. Things are going to get worse. And there will be a point where the bubble of feminism and liberation and all of that stuff breaks. And when things get bad in this 21st century for America, which I predict they will, you're gonna need the real men, quote unquote, back. The problem is, are there still real men left in this country? I think that's the big thing we got to ask. And are there enough of them, right? Because there's been a systematic war against them. And you could argue maybe the bad situations will reawake the old instincts. But look at the stuff they put in the food. We talk about it all the time. Look at all the estrogenic stuff they put in the things we consume. The way male testosterone biologically, largely because of the things they are doing, right, actually is on the decrease. Sperm count is down. All that stuff is down. My big worry is that when things do get bad, because of what they've done, not just from an ideological perspective, but even something like the medical perspective, right? What they put in those stuff, the amount of estrogen in that, I worry. I really do worry. I don't know.
Well-planned, very thorough evacuation of Afghanistan. And all the schools that we opened for women got shut down by the Taliban. And I was having this conversation with someone, and I was saying, okay, well, you're an Afghan man, right? You've been hired by the Afghan Defense Force, and America's now left, and you have a meager wage, and America's left, and the Taliban are coming, and you're standing outside of the school with your AK, and they're coming with whatever they've got. and you're looking at the school going, do I really want girls to go to school that bad? Not really. Just put it down, you walk off. And this girl's like, yeah, but it's really important. And I'm like, yeah, it is very important. I agree. Women should have education and right the education. Completely agree. But you're also saying here that men should die for it, which is fine. I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case, but I'm saying that you should give men the respect they deserve for dying for your education.
True.
Because it's not the women who are going to defend that female school, it's the men.
True.
So if you're going to shit on men all day long and say we ain't worth anything until a war comes, and then you want us to go die?
True.
That's interesting. When the famine comes, the closer reality gets towards baseline survival, the closer we become towards our gender roles, because it's the only way we can be competitive. If you took 10 men and 10 women and stranded them on a desert island, the men would be men and the women would be women, because if they didn't, they would die.
True. Exactly.
That's the bottom line. And I think that if you look at history...
Is that gorilla statue made out of money? I think that gorilla statue... Look at it.
Since the dawn of time.
It's made out of dollar bills.
Men were masculine. Funny. And also men, by and large, were generally ruling the society, not in an oppressive way, but in a protective way.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think that means that makes the society most competitive. And my argument for that is that if you name any society since the dawn of human time, men were protecting women, providing for women, and basically in charge of the society. And these are societies that never met. So it can't be an idea that spread.
It's nature.
The Ming dynasty and the Aztecs. They're pretty far away.
Yeah.
But that's how society was most effective. And when feminists argue with me and say, we need a society run by women, I say, well, that's never, ever happened. And if it has happened, they got destroyed so quickly, they never had a history.
Yep. Exactly.
You can't even name one. So it's a brand new idea, which I'm not saying is a bad idea. I'm saying if it's a brand new idea, you can't tell me it's going to be better because it's never been tried, ever.
In a partial sense, it's kind of being tried right now. Kind of. To some degree, I would argue, even then, they have a hard time fully implementing it because, it's just, you're fighting against nature. You're really fighting against God. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. Let me just say that. But, I think the more we embrace feminism, there's a pretty one-to-one correlation. Look at the United States starting to embrace feminism and the downfall of our society. Yeah, and there may be other factors, but I would argue it's actually a very central factor. We're rejecting the basic design of man and woman. And this is not a 2020s thing. This is not something that spawned a few years ago. I would go all the way back, right, to, the origins of all these movements. And you kind of look at the slippery slope that has happened there over time. And then look at how society has degraded. It's true.
So we're going to see. But what happens if it doesn't work with the most powerful nation on earth? Right? So we're feminizing men and women have more and more control and more power, which is fantastic. I'm saying this is untested. Who knows where any of this is leading? And our competitors, America's competitors, are still very firm in their gender roles.
Yep.
So it's certainly an interesting period of history we're about to enter. It's very interesting.
What's your view of tobacco?
Isn't it ironic? All right, we'll play the last tobacco thing here, and then we'll go on to the Piers Morgan one, okay? But isn't it interesting? China, right? The country we call communist all the time because they still are ruled by the CCP that, Mao founded and stuff, is way bigger on masculinity than the United States. You guys know this, right? I believe they've actually banned American movies and video games because they say, certain ones, because they say that's emasculating our youth, right? They have all these programs, masculinity, right? They want their boys to be more manly, not less manly, right? Look at how the competition's going, right? Who's rising in the world? Who's falling in the world? You know the answer, And you may look at Russia, oh, well, look, Ukraine, they're losing, okay, whatever. But still, the point is, all of our rivals around the world, it's true, still do embrace this idea that men are men, women are women, and, this sort of natural male role is to step up, to lead, to protect, to be dutiful. The natural female role is to be supportive and, nurturing and caring and stuff like that. Because this is the natural design that has governed us for thousands of years. Now, if you want to look at me and say, no, it should be the opposite. Well, I think you're wrong because you're fighting against God. You're fighting against nature. And let me just say, I think that's a lot. You're asking a lot. You're asking to get rid of our very basic human biology and the way we're created and the way we're meant to live. I think that's a very dangerous pursuit. I think that's the subject of a dystopian novel, to tell you the truth. But even if you want to say, oh, but I want to pursue this, do you understand what's hanging in the balance, right? You have this great civilization, okay? Actually, the greatest in at least the modern history of the world, that was built on a certain way by men leading, by strong men leading specifically, right? You are going to gamble away and potentially jeopardize that civilization. Which, let me just say, we're not talking about civilization in a video game. We're not talking about on a map or a history book. A civilizational collapse means a lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are going to starve. That's what happens when civilization collapses, okay? And you're going to risk all of that for, in a country where life historically has been pretty good. I actually do like the historic United States. It's a pretty good place, right? You're going to risk all of that in the pursuit of this thing that you have no idea is going to work, called feminism. And I would argue it really doesn't work, and you're seeing that it doesn't work, right? Why should I be forced to accept that value proposition? Why don't? Because I'm a conservative, right? I believe that, hey, if tradition has worked and tradition got us to this point, if the people before us built this civilization to this point, and things are generally pretty good overall, why should we tear that all down and try something totally new that we don't know is going to work, It's reckless. It's kind of psychotic, really, when you think about it. And the rest of the world that we're competing against, they're not doing this. Outside of the US, Canada, and Europe, nowhere do they play this experiment, right? Now look at what's happening. Who's rising and who's falling in the world? The writing's on the wall. The writing, frankly, is on the wall, And I think there are many levels, there are many reasons to why that's true, but I think that's very true. I think that's very true.
I love tobacco. So my diet is particularly strange, I've been told. I live on caffeine and nicotine. So I eat once a day. I eat dinner only. 80% of my calories come from meat. I have 10 cups of coffee a day and 3 or 4 large cigars. So I like caffeine and nicotine.
Dude, he's such a genetic freak. First of all, how do you drink 10 cups of coffee a day? I don't know. You have to be top G to do that. Because I'm pretty sure the average human being would... I don't know if they would die, but... I always get a kick out of this because that is way over the suggested limit of caffeine. Okay, not to be that guy, but if I drink over 400 milligrams, I get a headache. But that's quite the diet. Okay, so anyways, that's what I wanted to react to from the Andrew Tate interview. Like I said last night, we were not able to get to this because of the technical issues, but I did want to have those very important discussions about the migration issue and the masculinity stuff. Let us move on here, ladies and gentlemen, to something we just got the news of today here. So Piers Morgan, folks, actually, by the way, guys, if you do want to super chat to support the show, feel free to do so. I will read them periodically, and we'll have the... Here, see, do I have the text-to-speech thing set up here? Okay, I believe I do. Okay, feel free to do so. But, okay, let's move on here. So today, Piers Morgan sat down with RFK for an interview. I figured we'd sit here and react to it. It's about 20 minutes long. And just kind of hear out what he has to say, because I think... I definitely don't plan on voting for him in the primary, by any means. But I think he's an interesting figure, and... I'll give you more thoughts in a second. Okay, let's kind of hear it out first. All right.
New York City, you're seeing the Statue of Liberty there, and of course that is the symbol of freedom and democracy in the United States, and nothing symbolizes that more than the presidential race. My next guest is shaking up the race for the White House. He's come from pretty well nowhere to be an insurgent challenger to President Biden, and when he speaks, people are listening. He's a Kennedy, a controversialist, and now a candidate for President of the United States. RFK Jr. is seen by some as the black sheep of America's most famous political dynasty. Both his uncle, President John F. Kennedy, and his father, Robert F. Kennedy, were assassinated. Robert Jr. blames the CIA.
Congress found that, yeah, it was a plot. It was a conspiracy.
Just as he blames vaccines for autism.
Let's play that game in chat right now, actually. Who do you think took out JFK? And RFK, I guess, but let's just do JFK. Who do you think took him out? Because there are a number of theories. First of all, obviously, it was just some random guy, Lee Harvey Oswald. But I've heard alternating theories. Some say it was the CIA, the deep state, and the argument they make is Operation Northwoods, right? If you look into it, the military-industrial complex wanted to stage fake terrorist attacks against the U.S. from Cuba to justify a war with Cuba. JFK said no. Some people say that's the reason why. Other people say it may have been the mob or the Italian mafia because, JFK was supposedly going against them. or it could have been an elaborate psyop, because some right-wingers would argue JFK was controlled opposition from the start and he was martyred and that's why they took him out. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. In fact, I'll do a poll right now. Here you go. Let me do a poll in chat.
Wi-Fi radiation is does all kinds of bad things, including causing cancer.
But while some cry conspiracy, many simply see a leader who's ready to rock the establishment and is paying off.
49% of respondents say Democrat presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is viewed favorably by voters, higher than President Biden.
The wannabe podcast president is winning over liberals tired of Biden and Republicans tired of Trump. But is this ripped renegade really ready to be president? Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. joins me now. Great to see you. Great to meet you. Great to meet you. I interviewed you a few weeks ago at the very start of all this. I've got to say, you're having a great race. I mean, this is really for you, I would say, of all the candidates on either side, you're the one
there's the
getting
poll in
most
chat,
attention.
guys. Let me know. I'm curious, because I honestly don't have a set opinion on this. So I'm open to it. Okay, we put up a poll in chat. Who do you think killed JFK? All right, there you go. Check. Everyone, go vote. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so far so good. Me and my whole team are very happy with how things are going. We're getting tremendous traction all over the country. Our polling data shows, me surging. So we're happy.
Let me ask you, because viewers were asking me last time, what's up with his voice? They didn't know you, they hadn't heard you speak before. Let's talk about that. What is the issue with your voice?
I had a very, very strong voice until I was 42 years old. In 1996, I had an injury that caused a neurological disorder called spasmodic dystonia. And it makes my voice like this. I cannot listen to my voice. When I go home, I will not listen to this program.
Really?
I can't do it. And I feel sorry for the people in your audience who have to listen to me. But this is the best I've got right now. But I am, I went over with my wife, Cheryl Hines, to do.
I think, by the way, it's unfortunate he has that issue with his voice, because I think when a lot of people first listen to him and hear that voice, they think, whoa, what the heck, and it's kind of off-putting. And he has that image of being a conspiracy theorist, which, if you hear him with a crazy voice, it adds to sort of that idea he's just a lunatic, right? Now, honestly, when I first heard his voice, you get that perception, but when I do hear him speak more, I don't agree with him on everything. He's kind of a liberal, albeit at least kind of a well-intentioned one for once in their existence, but I actually think he's a very intelligent guy. He's very articulate. He's not quote unquote crazy at all. But that voice, man, that's gonna hurt him in the primary, and it's unfortunate because I think people should look past it. But we know how elections work, okay? And you're trying to win a Democratic primary. Are they gonna have the maturity for that? No, they're gonna be like, oh, he's a anti-jabber, and look at his voice. You're trying to appeal to a party in a primary of literal children. Good luck, I'm just saying.
Surgery in Kyoto in Japan about 8 months ago, and it made my voice a lot more reliable. And now I'm doing a bunch of alternative sort of therapies that make it, I think, they're making it a lot stronger. So we'll see what happens.
Because you must be, when you're on the trail like this, you're doing so many interviews and stumpings and so on. I mean, you use your voice all the time. Does it worry you that it may just sort of pack up? Or
No, because my voice actually doesn't get weaker when I use it. It gets stronger.
Really?
Yeah, because it's not tissue injury. So my vocal cords are very, very strong. It's just the neurological signals that are being sent to them are telling them to tighten up all the time, and it makes my voice gravelly. But I can talk 20 hours a day and my voice won't wear out, so I'm not worried about that. But
well, I
don't like the way it sounds, and I apologize to everybody.
I don't think any apology is necessary. I think people are just curious, and actually it's what comes out of your voice that's more interesting and more relevant to the fact that you want to be president. You come from American royalty, the Kennedy family. Obviously, they've had a president. They've had others who were running for.
So I'm going to have to skip past this part. I know it is on YouTube, but they talk about a certain issue. I think you know what it is. I'm just going to play it safe, TOS, okay? By the way, let me just hint, it's an issue I agree with RFK on 100%, but Okay.
So we've done that. Let's come back and talk about you. I know you're a falconer. You like whitewater rafting. You like a thrill and a danger in your life. I want to get into that after the break. More from Robert Kennedy Jr. Robert, what's the best and worst thing about being a Kennedy?
I think the good vastly outweighs the bad. I don't see anything to complain about, honestly. I think there's been so many. I feel so blessed. I feel a privilege to be a member of this family, and not only because of the sort of the cash and prize, the connections that you have and the access and the education, and then it's I have 11 brothers and sisters and 29 cousins, and we all love each other and
you argue a lot, right? I mean,
oh yeah, we were trained to argue, and my grandfather did that with his 9 kids. He would make them, every night at the dinner table take opposite positions.
Yeah, I do that with my kids. I think it's healthy.
Yeah, I think it is too, and I think we need to learn to talk with each other, dispute, have conversation and discourse without hating each other.
I totally agree. This. I came from an era.
Here's what I'll say about Piers Morgan, okay, is, I have some level of respect for him. Like, I disagree a lot with him and I agree with some. I at least respect, unlike some other journalists, he will platform people. He'll sometimes, take a shot out of left field. But I do have to say, he presents himself as this very unbiased interviewer. But notice when he has either Ron DeSantis or RFK on, the whole thing is a puff piece. Like, listen to him especially with RFK. This guy's running for president, and I don't mind hearing him talk. I think he's an interesting person. But, the question you're going to ask him is what? What's it like to be a Kennedy? It's like you're talking to a Kardashian as like one of their fans. That's what it sounds like to me. What's it like to be a Kennedy? I want to hear your platform, man. I want to hear what you're about, your ideas, maybe things that are happening to you as a result of running all this stuff. But here you have Piers Morgan. What's it like being a Kennedy? Just puff piece, man. You do better, Piers. Do a lot better.
When I was young, you'd go down the pub and you'd have an argument and you'd buy each other a pint. And that was it. You didn't fall out with people because you disagreed with them.
Well, my uncle, Tate Kennedy, who was in the Senate for 50 years, and he has more legislation attached to his name than any senator in United States history. And the reason for that is he had so many friends on the Republican side of the aisle. He'd come home on weekends to the Cape, where we all live in kind of a communal group, and he'd bring Orrin Hatch, who is, to us, kind of a right-wing Darth Vader. And we'd spend the weekend on a boat with him, and to see Teddy laughing with him and really just enjoying and loving.
That's how it should be. It's how it should be.
And he never compromises values.
Right.
But
you don't have to. But you can certainly have your views challenged by people that don't agree without losing your mind. Let me ask you. I mean, Robert, you were 9 when your uncle John F. Kennedy was assassinated. You were 14 when your father was assassinated. They're very formative years. I've got 3 sons who both, all 3 of them came through those ages. Very formative years for such cataclysmic things to happen. What impact do you think those 2 huge events had on your life?
Well, I think they were national traumas, and they were part of the national traumas. There were basically kind of 5 or 6 traumas: Martin Luther King's death, my uncle, my father, the Vietnam War, 9/11 and COVID, that pushed our country in a bad direction down the road to be, the military-industrial complex and to becoming kind of a surveillance state at home. But from my own personal point of view, my mom told us something when we were really young, told me something when one of my brothers died. And I said to her, does the hole that they leave in you when they die, does that ever get any smaller? And she said, no, it never gets any smaller. But our job is to grow ourselves bigger around the hole by taking the best parts of that, the best virtues of that person who died, and trying to incorporate them into your own life, into your own character as part of the mourning process. And that builds you bigger as a person, so the hole proportionally gets smaller. And I think all of us and my family tried to do that. We were also schooled from when we were very little to.
Again, you know, I think it's interesting. I don't mind listening to him talk about it, but you see what I'm saying about Piers Morgan? Like, that's the question you ask him. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of issues about RFK that I think all of us want to hear. What's his stance on it? What does he believe? What does he think of Biden? Half this interview is, you know, well, you know, what's it like being a Kennedy? It's such a puff piece, you know.
Complain, you know, that my mother would say to us.
Well, let's see if it gets any better, okay?
And you know, you have to have a mission, and you have to keep moving. Take the best parts of that person.
Let me ask you about your father then. Do you feel? I mean, he was for many
just
people,
still
the
more.
greatest
What's it like
president
being a
America
Kennedy,
sadly
right?
Never had.
My uncle. Oh, my father.
Your
okay.
father. Your father. What do you think you've gained from him, and do you feel his spirit guiding you now as you run for president?
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a lot of time. I think, unlike other members of my family who many of them are so shattered even to this day that they can't really think about my dad's, you know, death or my Uncle Jack. But I've spent a lot of time kind of reading all the literature and studying their lives, and I'm constantly delighted and surprised by how much of their values have withstood the test of time. And I think, you know, my campaign right now is about recalling America to those values.
And what are they? Summarize them.
Well, you know, all of the kind of traditional values of the Democratic Party, which are free speech, you know, a love for the Constitution, protecting the environment, the Purple Mountains majesty for our children, protecting that government has a role protecting the rights of minorities and for people who are underrepresented in the political process, women's right, bodily autonomy, you know, that smaller government is and more freedom is always better. You know, the word liberal means freedom, and this idea that democracy and that, you know, freedom from a totalitarian system fosters human growth and human creativity. So a love of the arts, which is the highest aspiration of you know, of democracy. My uncle used to say that.
See, I agree with half of that and strongly disagree with the other half, but I'll talk about it in a second. I'll give you my honest take on him in a second, okay?
That, you know, nobody really remembers the names of the generals in the Peloponnesian Wars and the battles, you know, but everybody remembers the poems of Aeschylus and the plays of Sophocles and the art and the sculpture and the you know, and the literature, the beauty of the architecture of ancient Greece, and that really is the ultimate aspiration of a democratic society, to create things that are enduring and that elevate the human spirit.
Let's take a short break. Come back and talk about what arts you're good at then, because I know it involves whitewater kayaking and falconry. What else do you do? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We'll find out after the break.
So I'm glad we got to at least hear some of what he actually wants to run as for president, but here, come on, here we go again, Piers, okay? You're interviewing a presidential candidate. Do you understand this? You're not interviewing some random, Vogue magazine celebrity, okay? There are things I want to hear him talk about. I want to hear his platform. I want to know what he believes on certain issues. All that is tell me about your father. Tell me about your family. Now, tell me about your hobbies. Really, Piers? His hobbies? That's what we want to hear about, is his hobbies? Come on, dude. All right, let's see if there's any.
Looking at the Empire State Building.
Because I don't care about this stuff, and I do kind of respect in some way the idea that, you know, he is trying to run for office, but he's also an active guy, and he's jacked and whatnot, and he's active. I mean, there's something cool about that. But is that really the relevant conversation we need to be having about him? I don't know.
In Manhattan, in New York.
Let's go on.
And I'm still with the presidential candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Well, we left the viewers on a cliffhanger. What are your artistic bents? Where do you find your cultural solace?
Well, what do you mean? I mean, I'm not particularly talented as an artist. Let me put that out there. That's not a big disappointment for people. But
what do I think Joe Biden's hobbies are? Well, I know he likes his dog. He likes eating ice cream, chocolate chip, and probably sleeping. I think that's probably his #1 hobby. You know,
I love, like, I have eclectic taste in music, and I love art and art history and going to museums, and but I admire it, but I'm not very good at.
But falconry is a big thing in your life.
Yeah,
what do you get from falconry?
I have always had an affinity for the outdoors and for nature, and for me, I read when my uncle was in the White House.
He trains falcons. Okay, that's kind of cool.
A lot of people talking about Camelot, and I read T.H. White's book, The Sword, or The Once and Future King. He's a British falconer and an incredible writer. And it's about the story of young King Arthur, and there was a chapter there on falconry, on training hawks, which was very popular, in the Middle Ages. It was the most popular sport. And when I read that chapter, I fell in love with it, and I became obsessed with it. And as it turned...
Okay, I think we get the point, guys. I'm trying to... Because I do want to give you, like, an honest discussion on RFK, but I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that's actually policy-related. Okay, here's him working out
here, which has got everyone
Which is
going.
cool. I'll give it that.
Obviously,
it's cool.
we look at this and we see a man in peak physical condition. Congratulations. But we also are reminded of President Biden's, let's put it kindly, lack of comparative physical condition.
True.
How concerned are you, never mind the race, but how concerned are you when you see President Biden now in public? The sheer volume of missteps, both verbal and physical. Does it concern you as an American?
No, they cut out the fall.
I don't really think that I have any additional wisdom to contribute to that debate. I think that I haven't seen President Biden in a couple of years. And I don't know, I saw him trip on the stage, but, anybody can, as you know, anybody can trip on a stage. And so I don't really know what his condition is. There are worrying.
Oh, come on, dude.
Come
on, RFK.
But,
you know he's mentally not there. Come on, man. Oh, he's got to be, I'm civil. I get being civil in some regards, but everyone in the country, even the Democrats, if you get them honestly, I mean, I know it's several Democrats, or they'll just say, yeah, I'm still going to vote for Biden because Trump is an evil fascist. But, the guy's not really entirely there. No one in the country, come on. Like, if you're going to say anything about Joe in this primary, you can absolutely say that because everyone believes it. No, like, there are probably 3 people in this country who actually think he's mentally fit to be there. Even a lot of Democrats just see him as, well, he's not Blumford DeSantis, so.
May not actually run in 2024 when it comes to it. And is that why you think you actually have a real chance of potentially becoming the Democrat nominee?
I think I have a chance of becoming the Democratic nominee because my numbers are better at beating Republicans than him. So, and I think that's what the Democratic
Should the party make him stand aside for you?
Well, that's first of all, that's not going to happen. Oh,
but doesn't that have to happen to let you beat him?
No. I mean, I have to win some primaries.
And you think you can actually beat him in primaries?
I think I can beat him in the primaries.
I mean, it'd be incredible. I mean, pretty much unprecedented if you do that, right, to an incumbent president.
It's, I think Reagan did that against Gerald Ford.
Right.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, it's unusual. But my father ran against an incumbent president, and he would have won. My uncle Teddy ran against incumbent President Carter and lost.
And do you actually believe
he won something like 37 states?
Do you actually believe that in 2024, when we get to December, January, you will be the person on Inauguration Day addressing the American people?
Okay, I'm going to be very objective about this, but I'm telling you that
we have a few seconds left.
If I had to put money and bet on any candidate, I would put it on me.
That's good enough. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a great pleasure to meet you.
If I was a gambling man.
Well, I'm a gambling man. I'm either pot myself. Good to see you.
All right, so let's talk about RFK, okay? So now that we've introduced the topic through this interview, which, again, I would have liked to hear a lot more interesting questions. By the way, Zachary for 2 says, Robert Kennedy Jr., more like Ripped Kennedy Jr. This is true. Okay, let's talk about it. So here's my thing on RFK, all right? It's a very divisive topic. Some people are saying, I don't trust him at all, this, that. What I appreciate about him is that I think he introduces certain things into the political discourse that are non-existent in both parties. And if you guys know me, I think should be at the forefront of everything. First of all, he calls out the medical industrial complex as well as the food system, which, you know, I kind of talk about on this channel quite a bit. But there's something to be said about that, right? I actually think it should be of the utmost importance that the USDA and the FDA in our country are corrupt, because that is actually actively killing our population, you know? And I would argue that's for a reason. I talk about this all the time, but all of the stuff and all this, you know, chemicals and whatnot, how poisonous American food is, specifically what that's doing is it's killing male testosterone. Do you understand for so many reasons why that's a bad thing? Because that stops our ability, first of all, to rebel against the system, to stand up. Also, there's a correlation between male testosterone and right-wing ideas and all of that stuff. And I think it's one of the most important things. I know people think it's just some kind of like fringe conspiracy theory. I think it's actually one of the most important issues if we do want to reclaim this country is we have to fix the food and drug system, because it's not an immaterial thing. It's actively killing our people, and even on a hormonal basis. There is a correlation between the state of our country politically and morally and the stuff we're putting inside our bodies. That's actually true. That's actually true. So that's number one. Number two, I think it's cool. I don't know if that's the most important, but I do think it's cool. Yeah, the fact that he's ripped, right? That there's a politician, again, who encourages by proxy something like physical fitness, and, you know, he's well read, he likes philosophy. There's something kind of just cool about the image here. My big thing about RFK, I don't plan to vote for him on the primary at all whatsoever. I will vote for Trump. There are many issues that he's just a downright liberal on. But what I do appreciate about him is I think he's injecting things into the political discourse that were non-existent before, right? Trump doesn't talk about some of this stuff. DeSantis doesn't talk about this stuff. Biden certainly doesn't talk about this stuff. No one does. He's bringing it up. And to tell you the truth, I don't really think he has much of a shot in the Democratic primary. Not because I don't want him to, but really primarily because I think he's too free-thinking for the Democratic constituency, right? I think Republicans actually like him more than Democrats do, because Republicans say, hey, this guy's interesting. He has a mind of his own. He has independent thoughts. Well, we understand, okay, the Democratic base, do they have that? Do they want that? No, right? They want the culture, the left-wing culture warrior who's just going to blump this, that, you know, total NPC. So I don't think RFK is going to go very far in his own party, but I do think that it's good that conservatives are noticing and paying attention to him, because like I said, he brings up a lot of issues that need to, at least on our side, be injected into the discourse, and I think he may be a useful proxy in that regard. So there's my stance overall on the RFK thing. Now, I will drop a take, and I actually tweeted this out today, and a lot of people got really mad at me for this, but I stand by this 100%, is I do not think he is a bad choice. I'm not saying he's the perfect choice or my ideal choice, but I don't think he is a bad choice to be Donald Trump's vice president. I don't know if that would work. I don't know if both parties would agree to it. I'm not really saying anything on that front, but I like the idea. I'm open to the idea. And I will say this, okay? Everyone's going to get in he's a liberal, Vince. He's a Democrat. How could you do this? Well, what I will say, and what I said today that everyone got so pissed at, is I said, I'm not saying RFK is the ideal pick for me, but in comparison to most of the alleged candidates, the rumored candidates that Trump supposedly is looking at, i.e. Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Elise Stefanik, Kristi Noem, people like that, I think RFK Jr. is a far better pick for the VP than most of the people Trump allegedly is currently considering. Now, there's also rumors that Trump is totally reorienting his VP search, and so, you know, maybe he'll find someone much better. But here's my thing with RFK, right? And why I think he is at least a decent pick is you want to say, oh, but on the political issues. Okay, is RFK really that distinguishable from, say, a Nikki Haley or a Tim Scott? I mean, let's be realistic, totally real about this, okay? Totally real about this. All of the people I've been hearing about, all they do is cave to the left anyway. Nikki Haley and Tim Scott both basically shed a tear and kneel to Black Lives Matter. You mean to tell me RFK would be any different on the political issue? In fact, maybe RFK would be better. I don't know. Kristi Noem, you know, kind of another people they're looking at. Kristi Noem vetoed a bill on gender reassignment for minors, and I believe also I think it was the sports thing, right? The putting the Transformers in sports. She vetoed that bill. She vetoed a Republican bill to do that. So it's like between the neocon picks. Now, if you want to pick someone that's actually good on the issues, then fine. But this whole thinking we've had so far that Trump basically needs to choose a neocon Republican to win over the suburbs and the independents and the moderates. I think if you're going in that direction, RFK Jr. is a much better pick to win the independents and the moderates in the suburbs than are these pretentious neocons, right? RFK will win you a lot more disaffected Democrats and moderate suburbanite independents than Nikki Haley will, than Tim Scott will, than any of the shortlist I'm currently seeing will. And so that's sort of my take on it, right? That's sort of my take on it, number one. I think RFK could be a very good thing because especially... And what I'm so often told is that, well, Trump's big problem, he's not electable. You know, the moderates don't like him. The suburbanites don't like him, you know, this and that. Okay. Then I think of the people I'm seeing on this list, like I said, I think RFK could make Trump way more electable than, say, a Nikki Haley would by a million miles, right? By a million miles. Because what constituency is Nikki Haley realistically going to appeal to? People say, oh, suburban women, but I don't know, you know, dude... Just saying, I don't know how this whole idea Trump needs to choose a woman to win suburban women. A lot of women don't really even necessarily like each other. I don't know if that's going to go over so well. I think Nikki Haley's quite pretentious. At least RFK, you know, is better in that regard. And also, yeah, there is something to be said. Yes, RFK is a liberal. Yes, RFK is a Democrat. But you're picking a running mate, right? You're picking a running mate. So now there's different ways to pick a running mate. You could double down on your base, but it seems like what they're going for with the running mate thing is, oh, we need someone moderate than Trump who appeals to kind of the center a little more. Well, RFK is the perfect guy to do that. I don't see the case against it, right? He's much better than freaking the people I see them suggesting, you know? Right? Now, if it were me, I might say someone like a Glenn Youngkin would be a good VP for Trump. But if you're not going to go down that road, then I would say I don't see the issue with RFK. I actually think that's a good idea. You know what I'm saying? And the people all came at me. He's a liberal. He's a Democrat. I don't entirely trust him. It's like, okay, the trust thing, I get that. I really do. But I don't distrust RFK more than I distrust Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, or Kristi Noem, to tell you the truth, right? I think they're just as much as wolves of sheep's clothing as RFK might be, right? Look at Mike Pence. Okay, Mike Pence was a Republican. Was he loyal to Trump, right? Could we trust him? No, you know what I mean? Right? So there's not a lot of potential VP picks for Trump that appeal to the moderates or appeal to the suburbs that I necessarily do trust. So I don't know if that's really a factor, right? But here's the thing too, is that I think if you're going to try to make an appeal to the middle, to the independents, to disaffected Democrats, another reason I think RFK is a better pick to do that than a neocon like Tim Scott or Nikki Haley is because there's something about RFK that also, like, Trump is anti-establishment and RFK is anti-establishment, right? It kind of doubles down on the populist aspect of it. And also, you know, say what you will about RFK. Again, a lot of political issues I disagree with him on, but I have no doubt in my mind that he's anti-deep state, right? Which I think is probably the most important thing out of Donald Trump's presidency if we do get a second one. It's not even necessarily the political issues. Democrats are probably going to control at least one chamber of government. How many conservative bills are you going to get through? My biggest thing is he needs to wage war against the administrative state, against the bureaucracy, drain the swamp, right? And, you know, the VP doesn't do much anyway, so I'm not sure if it matters. But if you really want to set the message, this is what we are going to do, RFK, who, at least, say what you will about him, I don't really think he's a part of the swamp, right? At least him coming from the outside communicates that more than a swamp creature like freaking, again, I keep bullying them tonight, but it's true, Nikki Haley or Tim Scott would, right? So that's why I would prefer, especially if you're going for this idea of ticket unity, you know, like I said, I think Glenn Youngkin is probably a better VP pick, okay? But still, you know, let's say that doesn't happen. I don't know how likely that is to happen. Then I think it is better to choose an anti-establishment Democrat like RFK than it is a neocon. And I think you actually have a better chance of winning the election on that front by doing that. The Kennedy name also is very powerful in politics. It's still very respected. I think people even just seeing that name on the ticket will make them feel intrigued, to say the least, right? It'll communicate something interesting to people. And then furthermore, even on issues of policy, I'm really not that convinced that a lot of these moderate Republicans that they're considering choosing are really that more conservative than RFK. So I don't really see the argument. I mean, I'm willing to read chat. People got really mad at me on Twitter and they're like, how could you do this? He's a liberal. He's a Democrat. Again, I didn't say he's the perfect pick. I just said, in comparison to the people I've seen on this short list, I think he's a million miles better pick. I don't know if it's realistic. I don't know if it was happen, but if I were Donald Trump, I'd at least explore the idea. That's what I'm saying. So I don't know. Let me take a look. I think we got a super chat here. Let me get caught up. Sheeny Beanie for $5. There you go. Oops. Sheeny Beanie. Is your chat gonna pop up here? There we go. Sheeny Beanie for $5 says, you should have Alan Roberts on to talk about America's poor health. Warning, he cusses a lot. Oh, and he's vocally anti that thing. Well, we may have to put some of it on Rumble then, but I would consider that for sure. Thank you for the $5 Sheeny Beanie. Republican Thinker for $5 Canadian says, I like RFK on the blank stuff. Yeah, I know, right? That thing. But it's cringe when he also says race baiting stuff. Well, yeah, I get it. He's a liberal, guys. I don't want him to be president of the United States. But I do think there's something to be said about working with him, right? There's an angle there. Whether you make him VP or even give him a cabinet position potentially, you know, put him in charge of the USDA. I'd be all for that, right? There's an angle here that I think you can pursue it and make it work, okay? If you were smart. And I think it would make a lot more sense than, you know, putting freaking Nikki Haley up there. I mean, just saying, right? Just saying. So RFK would move us away from political Marxism. I mean, I don't even know if it's a matter of that, but it's just, I think overall, at least he's anti-swamp and anti-establishment on many levels. And so I think that does complement. There's an angle, you see the angle I'm getting at? There's how that sort of complements Trump, in my opinion. I'm just saying. And here's the thing too, right? Why go for the safe pick? Because Nikki Haley, Kristi Noem, I guess that's a safe pick. Even I think Kim Reynolds is a better pick, but even that's a safer pick. 2024 is not going to be an easy election, guys. Don't listen to anyone who tells you that it is in whatever Republican camp. It's not, okay? Because even though Biden sucks, we're up against the machine. I think you guys understand what I'm saying there. So why not do something out of left field? Why not, right? Why not swing for the fences? Because that's what RFK is. He's definitely an out there pick, right? But why not? What was the case against doing that? VP doesn't have political power unless you give it to them. But even then, right? You know, VP doesn't really do much. We understand that. The reason you pick a running mate is just to get elected, right? So Joe Biden was like, I'm going to pick a black woman to appeal to black people. And, Donald Trump chose Mike Pence because, a lot of the evangelicals back then didn't like Donald Trump. So he's like, okay, well, let me get a kind of religious Christian conservative to compliment me on the ticket. So if that's what we're going for, and we understand the position Trump is in now is he struggles with the independents and the moderates, sure. RFK is perfect. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I think it's actually a great idea in my opinion. So, Vivek. I mean, Vivek. I wouldn't mind Vivek as vice president, but the thing is that I think Vivek more so is suited to a Trump cabinet position, because he will do decently in the Republican primary, but let's be realistic. He's never held governmental office, which kind of is an issue when it comes to picking a running mate. And also, is he really going to be that well-known of a name? You see what I'm saying on that front? So I'm not against it. I would be fine with it. But I think really the angle with Vivek is more so you put him in charge of something. Chief of staff, maybe he's in charge of tech or some, I think he's more of a cabinet position guy than the vice president. I wouldn't oppose that, but that's probably what I'd say on that front. He's a horrible pick. Okay, but why? Why is he a horrible pick? You know nothing about RFK. Okay, well, I mean, let's be real. Then who's the pick? You're saying Vivek is the pick. Again, I like Vivek. I'm not against the idea. But Vivek still, even after this primary, is going to be a virtual no-name. What does he add to the Trump ticket in terms of electability, right? Like, what does he add there? And also, that's not even the role that Vivek realistically is going for. He's not campaigning right now to be the vice president. He's throwing out ideas so that way he can craft policy for the Trump administration. You see that? So Vivek is someone who should be a chief of staff, a policy advisor, someone like press secretary even. That's sort of the role that Vivek fills. You know, like I said, I wouldn't mind him as vice president, but let's be realistic about what he's sort of gunning for right now and how he's going to be used, and the best way actually to use him and kind of put him in place. I don't think that's by being vice president yet, you know? RFK is fine. VP doesn't have to 100% align with our views. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Exactly what I'm trying to say. So anyways, we're moving on here to officially to our super chat portion of the show. I want to continue this discussion, but we're now open to super chat. So questions, comments, Q&A, feel free to send it in via these super chats. And of course, it is the best way here to support the channel and support the show. And while you're at it, be sure to sign up for our email list. Again, thevincedao.tv.com. That's thevincedao.tv.com. Everyone who signs up this first week is getting access to an exclusive video. It's my 4 ways to save America. Okay, it's my Vince Dao manifesto. And the best way to get it, the only way to get it, I should say, sign up for the email list. It is free. It is exclusive. VinceDaoTV.com. Just put in your email list. Get there. When we get to 1,000 email subscribers, we will certainly do something special. Okay, so again, exclusive content there, updates, and also the best way if we ever get deplatformed here on YouTube, copyright strike, whatever. Go be sure to check out that email list because that's where you're going to stay updated. So that's really the only foolproof way is signing up for that email list. So everyone, VinceDaoTV.com. Be sure to go and check it out. Okay. But anyways, I want Carrie Lake to be VP. See, here's the problem with Carrie Lake as VP. I love Carrie Lake, but you know, she lost the race. Well, you know what I mean? She did not become the governor of Arizona. What does she really have going for that case, right? But the thing is, too, here's what people need to understand, is that I think usually you choose a running mate for electability. Someone who helps strengthen your weaknesses, right? I think that the issue with Carrie Lake is that she's just like Trump. She's virtually identical to Trump. Now, there is a case to be made. Maybe you double down on the base, right? But I think that would be more so Ron DeSantis. If Ron DeSantis somehow overcame the 30-point deficit and became the nominee by some miracle, he would maybe want to say, let me pick someone Trumpian so that way I can kind of complement the ticket there. But I think that the thing about Carrie is she's too much like Trump. So she'd be good for the cabinet. She'd be a great press secretary or something like that. But I don't know if she helps the electoral case for Donald Trump. I mean, we like it because it's Carrie Lake, cool. But how many new voters does Carrie Lake bring potentially to the ticket, you know? And I think we do need to pursue practicality and electability when it comes to whoever we choose to be the VP for Donald Trump, because like I said, 2024 is not going to be a cakewalk, right? You need so I really do believe you need someone who's fundamentally, more than anything else, going to help you win, right? People always, Vince, you don't care about electability, blah, blah, blah. The DeSantis people always say that. I actually do. That's why I'm saying this right now, right? So I think you need someone who's going to help you win. I think that's very important, right? So, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Is the Discord server still open? Yeah, it is. It is. Remind me. I'll post the link on the members tab. Okay. Well, let's take a look again, guys. We are open here to super chats. Vivek is too smart. You know, I will say that's actually true. I think that's actually true. You know, that's part of what's going to hold him back, in my opinion, is that he's too smart. It's the Andrew Yang effect, right? He's sort of the Republican Andrew Yang. He's the guy with all the ideas. He has an answer for everything. He's incredibly intelligent. But you really got to wonder, especially in something like a general election, when we get off the internet, because right now the primary is online. It's an online debate. We all love Vivek. We get it. My concern is that when you broaden the base, so now you're talking about the primary voters, now you're talking even about the general election voters, I feel like he might honestly be too smart for his own good when you really think about it, right? Because think about the average common denominator in the general United States. I think he's too smart for them in a way, right? It's the Andrew Yang effect where you just come across as sort of like a nerd in a way. So I don't know. I'm really curious to see how Vivek will do in this primary. I root for him. I really like him, but in a way, it is true. I think he's too smart for his own good. It's real. There's something very real about that, you know, and it's unfortunate. But look what happens to Andrew Yang. So Andrew Yang wasn't intelligent at all, lol. I mean, you can disagree with him, fine. I don't agree with him on many things, but he's articulate. He can't, like Vivek, he comes to the table. He's a Democrat, okay? I'm talking about their side, but he comes to the table with actual ideas, actual policies. He has actual answers to questions. He actually had a vision. You could disagree with the vision, but he had a vision. But look what happened. He got consumed because the internet really liked him. But the general electorate looked at him and said, who is this guy? I don't know what the heck he's talking about half the time. So that's the thing. That's the thing. So, you know. Let me post really quickly. Here's the link to the email list, okay? Really quickly here. All right. Well, again, guys, we're open here to our super chats. But there's the link to the email list, by the way. There you go, guys. Okay. Be sure to sign up, all right? Let's try to get... How many people are we at right now? I think we're at like 25 people right now, something like that. So let's try to get the push, okay? I want to get to 50 and then 100, and I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet, but every goal we hit on the newsletter, we'll do something special, okay? I haven't figured out the perk yet. We'll do something special. So again, super chats are open, and feel free, be sure, go sign up for the email list. It's free, okay? But anyways. Now, I guess there's one last discussion I wanted to have tonight, which is on this poll of who killed JFK. Okay. This is an interesting question. So I'm looking now. We have, of 117 voters, 75% say it was the CIA, the deep state, you know, sort of the unseen entities in the U.S. government. You think they took him out. 15% say it was Lee Harvey Oswald. 5% say mafia. 5% say it was an inside job in the sense that he was martyred, right? Yes, they did take him out, but they took him out not because he was against the establishment, but because it was kind of, you know, the martyrdom effect. They needed that. It's a more complicated theory, but, you know, there is that. So, my thoughts on the JFK assassination. I'm very torn on this. That's why I put it out. I actually put it out to a poll because I don't really know what to think about this. So, the overarching belief, especially in the right, is that he was taken out by the deep state, right? He was anti-establishment, all of that stuff. And, you know, I do think the argument for that is strong, especially when you look at Operation Northwoods, right? So the backstory was, you know, the military, and this is declassified now, but top brass in the military wanted a war with Cuba, okay? And in order to get a war with Cuba, they had a plan, this is declassified now, called Operation Northwoods to stage terrorist attacks, which, you know, that's an interesting tactic there. Interesting. Stage terrorist attacks against the American people to justify an invasion of Cuba. JFK very famously was against Operation Northwoods. He said, no, we're not doing this. Get out of here. Get out of my face. So there's a theory there, right, that, you know, he pissed off the wrong people in the deep state, and that's maybe why he was assassinated or had a role to play. Some say there's something to do with the Federal Reserve on that front as well. And some just say maybe the mafia took him out because he kind of went after the mafia. The reason I'm torn on this, I do think there is something to the assassination, don't get me wrong, but the reason I'm torn on it is because on one hand, while perhaps those things are true, on the other hand, there are aspects of JFK that it's kind of complicated, but there are aspects of JFK to where I say, was he really that anti-establishment? And this is where we get into the martyrdom theory, right? Which is that JFK, when you look at his beliefs overall, you know, he still was a liberal in many aspects. All of the LBJ policies that we very often accredit to destroying the country, you know, the Great Society, the 1965 Immigration Act, all of that stuff, we look and blame we blame LBJ for that, and we say LBJ was such a terrible president. But that's all JFK's agenda, right? The LBJ agenda that we say wrecked the country, JFK supported all of those things. So that's interesting to talk about. So, I mean, yeah, there are some things about JFK. It's a complicated issue. That's why I don't really have an opinion on it. But also, it's important to note You know, I know people say JFK would be a Republican today. JFK would be a conservative today. Maybe, but at the time, he still was a liberal. That's what's important to understand. JFK was a liberal. He supported a lot of the things that we are against as conservatives, right? Which proposes the alternate theory, which is that when you look in the situation in 1963, JFK, when he got elected, he barely got elected. Very interesting what happened there. There's some conspiracies, but okay. He was slipping in terms of his popularity. You know, Bay of Pigs, a lot of things he did were actually unpopular. Some people thought he was incompetent overall, not fit to lead. And, you know, you look, they took him out. What happened as a result? The assassination of JFK virtually handed Democrats the 1964 election, right? Barry Goldwater did not run a great campaign, but no Republican would have beaten LBJ in 64. It's impossible, right? It created that martyrdom effect where JFK and sort of that idea of this Democratic Party became a hero in American politics for many, many decades, right? And in a way, you could argue it rescued JFK's image in some ways, right? Because JFK came in, he's supposed to be the smooth-talking, soft face for liberalism in many ways. Again, this is the counter-argument, because he was a liberal. And it wasn't working out so well, was it? Because his popularity was starting to slip. People were getting mad at him. Bay of Pigs, he had a lot of blunders, all this stuff. So the alternate theory is seeing that actually, you know, JFK might be at risk of losing the 1964 election. His popularity is slipping. The martyrdom theory is actually the establishment that he really wasn't against took him out in order to protect his legacy, because he was declining in terms of his legacy. They have a similar theory of MLK, some people. And then look what happened. All of the policies that JFK wanted were very easily and overwhelmingly passed under the Johnson administration. Now, it's interesting, right? That's why I have a little bit of a mixed opinion on it. I genuinely don't know. Maybe there's truth to both. I have no idea. But I'm a little torn on the Kennedy assassination for that reason. I don't believe the government never lied to us about it. Of course not. Of course, there's something going on there. It's just, my question is, was he taken out because he was against the system? Or did the system take him out because he served the system, but he was failing to do his job? Because you could see the argument for both. See what I'm saying? You can make the case, well, under LBJ, the military-industrial complex got their war. We went into Vietnam. Okay. But on the flip side, the liberal American order that, you know, took over in the future, they got their wishes. Because look at the Great Society. Look at everything that LBJ did that built the basis for the modern liberal state of America. Interesting discussion here, right? Very interesting discussion. I think it's nuanced. I don't have a very straightforward take on it. But Nick Roaming Mean Gene, the Morning Star for $2, thank you very much, says Larry Elder is identical to Trump. Appreciate the $2 there, Nick. I don't know if he's identical, but are you guys talking about a VP pick? I wouldn't really put Larry Elder as VP either. I think that's just appealing more to our own base, right? Trump is very popular with our base already. Trump is the base, you know? So I really think he needs to pick someone who complements him, but not a neocon at the same time. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm curious to have your guys' thoughts, but we close out the poll. 75%. The overwhelming majority of people think that, you know, the system took him out because he was against the system. I am a little torn on it. Like I said, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about it. So let's take a look here. If RFK and Trump join forces, it would devastate the establishment politics. They 100% should do it. That's what I'm saying, right? It would. It would smash the political order as it currently exists. And that's really what I'm going for. And I think that's what Trump ultimately in 2024 should be going for, you know? So that's my case for it. But again, guys, all right, we'll end the stream here about 9:30, I suppose. So last call for super chats. Feel free to send them in. Questions, comments, thoughts on the JFK assassination. Feel free to give me my thoughts. It's a plausible theory that the LHO could have been an agent. Lee Harvey Oswald, could have been an agent for whatever entity wanted the Kennedys dead. Well, I think regardless of what happened, that's probably true. That idea has been explored before, and it seems more sensible as a theory compared to others. Yeah, I mean, sure. I do think he was a real person. But yeah, I definitely think that's probably true. I don't know. A lot of questions, right? A lot of questions, to tell you the truth. I really have no idea. So let's take a look here. RFK as VP would be crazy. It would tear down the system, to say the least. That's why I think it's a good idea. Oh, one last thing I wanted to talk about. I totally forgot about this, guys. We'll close our news tonight with this story right here, okay? Guys, this is, JFK asked what your country can do for you. Reagan, tear down the wall. We will make America great again. Well, folks, we have a new addition to the list of great historical quotes. It comes from our AI czar, Kamala Harris. Kamala, who says, you guys ready? You guys ready to hear brilliance? You guys ready to hear verbal genius and high IQ, big-brained, ground-shattering opinions here? Okay, here you go. All right? Because you may be concerned. You may say, AI, Vince, I'm very concerned about it, right? Is it going to destroy civilization? I mean, what do we do? Well, listen, don't worry. Never fear, folks. The AI czar, Kamala Harris, is in charge, who says AI is kind of a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause. Okay. 81 million votes. Most popular vice president in history. Genius. Diversity is our strength. Let's take a listen here, okay? Let's take a listen to the verbal genius. I need to hear it, We deal with stupid people on a regular basis. We need to finally hear intelligence from, and I quote, AI is 2 letters. It stands for artificial intelligence. All right, so let's hear this big brain take.
It's kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning. And so the machine is taught. And part of the issue here is what information is going into the machine that will then determine, and we can predict then, if we think about what information is going in, what then will be produced in terms of decisions and opinions that may be made through that process. And I think the first
Folks, AI, it's not anything. It's just like the most important issue, arguably pressing the future of the world, because, you're talking about something that obviously can completely destroy humanity. We know the Terminator, the Skynet thing, that's actually a real possibility. Obviously it is. AI could kill us all. But even if it doesn't kill us all, you're talking about something that will certainly displace a lot of workers, displace the economy, upend, create potentially the biggest displacement of workers since the Industrial Revolution. So AI, a very important issue. What we do with AI is of the utmost importance as a civilization. But never fear, because diversity is in charge, okay? Sanity is back in the house, ladies and gentlemen, because we have Kamala Harris in charge of AI. So never fear, ladies and gentlemen. Never fear. Diversity is here. Sanity is here, okay? It's all it is an existential crisis facing humanity. No big deal. Folks, aren't you glad Kamala Harris is in charge? Wow, guys. And of course, she's going to save the world by saying AI is a fancy thing. First of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. Wow, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause, okay? Did she say that all by herself? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, let's see. Brandon Crespin sends a member chat saying, hey, Vince, how are you today? And good evening, chat. I love you all. God bless. I love you too. God bless you as well, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, diversity is greater than AI. Yeah, don't worry, AI. Don't worry, Skynet. You're scared of Skynet? Oh, you don't need John Connor. You don't need a Chad to come say... No. Kamala Harris, guys, okay? Kamala Harris. The T-1000 is chasing us. Skynet's about to nuke the world. Here comes Kamala Harris, okay? She's like Batman. She's the 2023 diversity hired Batman, okay? Kamala Harris. That's how competent she is. Okay? You got the diversity symbol, the diversity flag. That's what we all looked, when we need hope, okay? When times are desperate, you look to the sky. It's a real life bat symbol. It just says diversity is our strength. Okay? It's just so true. AI greater than diversity. And maybe that's true. It's so over, guys. We are very screwed. It is very screwed. But Kamala will use AI to make electric school buses and Venn diagrams. Yes, that's correct. That is so correct. Can't stand this woman. So true. I'm sorry, Vince, but having RFK as VP would be horrible. He could have an influence on the president and might undo it all for all the progress conservatives have fought for. Well, how's that any different than any of these other Republicans then? You mean to tell me Mike Pence, sorry, not Mike Pence, Nikki Haley could do the same exact thing and would do the same exact thing. Tim Scott would do the same exact thing. So I understand the argument. Oh, I don't trust him, this or that. But I think I'd much rather have a known Democrat than some type of wolf in sheep's clothing who we just kind of implicitly know would subvert that White House, right? At least there's something about choosing a Democrat that it creates a separation to a degree. Like we understand RFK, right? We have our differences with him and all that stuff. What I'd honestly be way more fearful of is someone like a Nikki Haley gets in there, licks Trump's, I shouldn't use that terminology, politically incorrect, but you know what I mean, right? Kisses up to Trump for a very long time through those 4 years, right? And then at the end, everyone's saying, we want Nikki Haley to run for president. We want Tim Scott to run for president. Remember how popular it was, the idea that Mike Pence was going to take over after Trump? That's the danger of choosing a Republican. See what I mean? At least someone like an RFK, I don't think anyone out there really wants to hand the reins to him as the next president, right? Whereas if you pick a very bad neocon Republican who just, cozies up to Trump for 4 years, you're absolutely going to get that. So I understand the risk. I understand why you think it's a risky decision, but ultimately, RFK is not going to have any more influence than he is given, right? The VP can't create influence. They have to be given the power. So that's up to Trump. But also in terms of, I don't think you have to be scared of RFK taking over the party. Whereas if you choose some neocon fool like a Stefanik, like a Haley, like a Scott, like a Noam, you very much run that risk. Because look at how popular Mike Pence 2024 was before you know what. So, I understand the case, but, that's the problem with it. I do get what you're saying. I understand. And like I said, me personally, I like Glenn Youngkin. I think that's a good idea. But first of all, he's taller than Trump, which may be a problem for Trump, and I don't know how well they personally get along, but I think that's a good pick. But anyways, we got a $20 super chat here, which is not showing up on YouTube. I don't know if it came through, but here you go. $20 from Sydney Sai, however I say your name. Thank you for the $20. Big super chat. Says she used ChatGPT for that information. Also, hello, Vince. Heart emoji. Well, hello, Sai. Good to see you. Appreciate it. God bless you for the 20. I don't know if it actually went through because I don't see it on YouTube, but I see it on Streamlabs. So hopefully it went through. But thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for the 20. Big donation there from Sai. All right. Well, let's see. We'll do 5 more minutes. Last call for super chats, ladies and gentlemen. But she's the race bent version of Batgirl. Real. Very true. Very true. Absolutely. It'd be nice if DeSantis would be VP, but you can't have 2 competitors from the same. Well, the problem is, so you can't have a vice president and president from the same state per the Constitution. Now, I don't know how the law works on that front, but Trump did file to run out of Florida, I believe, right? So I don't think you can change that now. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't think Trump DeSantis is a possibility at all. I don't think that would be a bad pick either. I think that'd be smart, unite the party and all that. So I would be open to DeSantis being the vice president, but I don't think that's possible, which is why I go for Youngkin, And especially you want to look at someone who's electable, who wins suburbanites, who wins moderates. I mean, Glenn Youngkin, he won Virginia, and even down ballot the last few weeks, people like him. The suburbs like him. He's a likable guy. Also, way more charismatic than DeSantis, for the record. But that might be a problem, right? He might outshine Trump, or Trump will feel like. So I don't know. I don't know how realistic it is that Youngkin is the VP pick, but I think it's a good pick. That would be, if you ask me anyone, that's who I would say. But RFK is on my short list there. I think he's much better than half the people you're considering, right? I think Youngkin would be good. I think Kim Reynolds would be good. Besides that, I don't know. Mike Garcia maybe. But that's a little bit, I don't know. Josh Hawley, if you want to double down, that might be good on the base. But I think of all the people, at least I'm hearing, RFK is one of the better choices. Maybe not the best, like I said, Youngkin. I think that's a good pick. But who knows? Who knows? So that's my opinion here. But all right, as we go into the last 5 minutes here of the stream, I'm gonna promote the email list one last time. Okay, so here you go. Let me put in the chat. Join our email list. All right. Okay, here we go. All right, so one last time. Let me promote it one last time before we go. Like I said, starting today, we now have an email list. Go sign up at thevincedao.tv.com. Again, that is thevincedao.tv.com. Join our exclusive free newsletter. Why should you join the exclusive free newsletter? Well, 2 reasons. Number 1, if I get deplatformed or striked here on YouTube, which is a very likely possibility, it happens to the best of us, that email list is going to be the best way to stay up to date if we get deplatformed, right? Yeah, you can check Instagram, you can check Twitter, but ultimately, that's the foolproof way, right? Email list, if anything happens with the channel, big tech, whatever, that is the number 1 and frankly only way to stay updated with us. So go join that email list for that reason. I humbly beg and ask you to do that for that reason. But also on your front, Vince, what do I get out of it? Well, you're going to get a great deal of exclusive content. In fact, this week, all new signees to the email list will get an exclusive free video. This is only for our newsletter people, but it is my 4 ways to save America. It is the Vince Dao Manifesto. It's a 15-minute exclusive video that you only get as a product of signing up for that newsletter. Again, it is free. Just put in your email. It helps us, helps you get exclusive content. Be sure to do it, okay? Sign up for the email list, vincedaotv.com, vincedaotv.com, all right? I put the link there. It's also in the description, or you can just type it in at vincedaotv.com, all right? How's my sales pitch? Am I good? Am I good? Do I need to add more to it? Do I need to add more incentive, guys? Come on. What do I need to say now? I don't know. If you sign up, you will get a free pet alligator, okay? Our 1,000th sign up. You get a free pet alligator. Okay, I'm going to go to the nearby lake. I'm going to pull out an alligator. I'm literally going to give it to you. 1,000% real. 1,000% real, okay? No, Vince, that's not real. No way. Oh, yeah? The only way to find out? Sign up for the freaking email list. There you go. All right, Republican Thinker for 5 Canadian. Thank you very much. This one did go through for sure. Says, Trump could pick DeSantis as VP, but since they're in the same state, they'd have to give up 30-something electoral points. Well, yeah, exactly. And you can't afford that. The election's going to be way too close. So thank you for the $5. That's why Trump DeSantis can't happen, sadly. Because I think that makes perfect sense. I don't think that's a bad idea. It's unity. I get the idea. But it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. So, yep, it is real. It is true. All right, last call, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, there's going to be no stream on Friday, most likely. If we do something on Friday, it will not be live. Just wanted to let you guys know that. So I know everyone wants a 7/14 stream, but sadly, I will be going to SAS in West Palm Beach. So if you go in there, feel free to see me at Con, I should say. So say hi to me if you're there. But I will not be streaming on Friday, which is the 7/14 anniversary, so it's ironic. I'll have content for you guys. Okay, we'll post and whatnot, but there will be no stream Friday. But tomorrow night, assuming nothing crazy happens in the news, we have a very special show for you tomorrow night. I'm debating a liberal, okay? I'm debating a liberal tomorrow night on the live, so be sure to join us tomorrow. That's going to be very fun, okay? It's going to be a huge show, so be sure to join us. 8 p.m. Eastern time, same place. But by the way, the beard is coming in strong. Maybe get a perm for your hair so you can become an honorary member of the Ramen Head Club. All right, I don't know if I want to do the perm thing, okay? Get the waves. But I see what you're saying. You can pull off like the Chad thing, right? But I don't know. Oh, you mean the other type of perm. Okay. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, the beard is coming in. The beard is coming in, folks. There might be a point where it just starts looking stupid, but I feel like it's still coming in good. Still coming in good. I'm just hoping it grows in on the side because I don't want a goatee. I want to connect it. I want the full beard. But see, it does grow on the side. It grows slower, so it's going to take time. But it does grow up and down my face. So, yeah, hopefully we're able to complete the beard. Go debate Vince Mao already. Well, Vince Mao won't respond. So what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Dollar for Dollar sends a member chat who says, hey, Vince, what's up? Can you make a second channel that is dedicated to personal stuff or gym content? I think that would be cool. Or could you put it on the members section of your channel? Thank you for the member chat. I definitely do want to do that at some point. I want to have a vlog channel or something like that. The issue is, honestly, right now, like, I don't have the time or the money or the resources for it at the moment, okay? But as we get bigger, I've always wanted to do that. But I feel like the channel at the moment and the bait audience and all that stuff, I feel like that still needs to grow. And also, I need more helping hands in order to have the time to make content like that. But that is in the cards, definitely. Like, I eventually want to definitely get that set up, so we will do that. Vince, what do you think of Trump's chances of winning the Electoral College? Well, I think it's doable. It's doable if we beat the political machine. That's really what it's going to come down to. Everyone always says electability. It's really going to come down to, do we have the infrastructure set up to counter the mail-ins and the early voting by doing it for ourselves? That's really what it's going to come down to. And I think we do that, we can absolutely win. If we don't do that, we lose. It really is that simple. I don't think there's a need to overcomplicate it. I really think it is that simple. So there's my thoughts on electability in 2024, to tell you the truth. But okay, guys, with that said, if we've got no more super chats, I will wrap up the show here tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Like I said, join in tomorrow. We're debating a liberal, 8 p.m. Eastern time, live here on this channel. Leave a like before you go. Let's get to 100 likes. And yeah, until next time, folks, everyone have a very good night. Alpha moves only. God bless. See you guys later. And peace. Join the email list, VinceDaoTV.com, VinceDaoTV.com. Do it. I'm watching you. Oh, why you don't join email list? You will join email list now. Thank you. Okay? You want number 4 or not? You want number 4 only on email, okay? Only email subscriber get number 4. It's true. All right. Good night. See you guys.